Learn English through stories with shadowing and conversation. In the beautiful city of Verona, there were two rich and powerful families, the Montagues and the Capulets. They had an old and angry feud. Even their servants and friends fought in the streets, and the prince of the city was very angry about it. One day, the Capulet family planned a grand masked ball. Romeo, who was a Montague, was feeling very sad. His friends convinced him to go to the party secretly. He wore a mask to hide his face from the enemies. At the party, Romeo saw Juliet. She was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. They talked and fell in love at first sight, before they knew their families were enemies. When they found out the truth, they were shocked, but their love was too strong. Later that night, Romeo secretly went to Juliet's garden. He stood under her balcony. They talked under the moonlight and promised to love each other forever. The next day, they went to a kind monk named Friar Lawrence. He married them secretly, hoping this marriage would bring peace to the two families. But happiness didn't last long. Juliet's angry cousins started a street fight with Romeo's best friend. In the chaos, a terrible accident happened, and Romeo was blamed. The Prince of Verona exiled Romeo from the city forever. Juliet was heartbroken. To make things worse, her father told her she must marry a rich man named Paris. Juliet ran to Friar Lawrence for help. He gave her a special sleeping potion. He told her,
"Drink this. You'll fall into a deep sleep and appear to be dead. I'll send a letter to Romeo explaining our plan."
Juliet drank the potion, and her sad family put her in the family tomb. Unfortunately, the letter never reached Romeo. Instead, a friend told him that Juliet was gone forever. Romeo could not live without her, so he bought a fast horse and went back to Verona. Romeo arrived at the tomb and saw Juliet. He thought she was really gone. His heart could not take the pain, and he passed away from deep sadness right next to her. Moments later, Juliet woke up from her deep sleep. When she saw Romeo's lifeless body, her heart broke too, and she joined him in eternal sleep. When the Montagues and Capulets saw this tragedy, they cried bitterly. They finally understood that their foolish hate had a very high price. Ashamed, they stopped fighting, built golden statues of Romeo and Juliet, and made peace forever. Now let's do some shadowing together. Listen carefully and repeat each sentence naturally with me. In the beautiful city of Verona, there were two rich and powerful families. In the beautiful city of Verona, there were two rich and powerful families. Romeo wore a mask to hide his face from the enemies. Romeo wore a mask to hide his face from the enemies. He married them secretly, hoping this marriage would bring peace. He married them secretly, hoping this marriage would bring peace. Juliet was heartbroken when Romeo was exiled from the city. Juliet was heartbroken when Romeo was exiled from the city. Romeo could not live without her, so he rode back to Verona. Romeo could not live without her, so he rode back to Verona. They finally understood that their foolish hate had a very high price. They finally understood that their foolish hate had a very high price. Now, let's listen to Olivia and Harry talk about the story and some of the key words from it.
Have you ever wondered how one missed message changed literary history forever?
Imagine if Romeo had just received one letter. That's it. One letter. The whole story could have ended completely differently.
Welcome back, everyone, and a massive thank you to Margaret for that absolutely lovely, though incredibly heartbreaking reading of Romeo and Juliet. Margaret, your voice always brings these classic stories right to life.
Brilliant job, Margaret. Cheers for that. Every time I hear it, it gives me goosebumps. But wow, it's a heavy story, isn't it? I sit there listening and I just think, they were just kids.
Exactly. We forget that. Juliet was, barely 13?
13! Can you imagine? When I was 13, my biggest life decision was choosing between salt and vinegar or cheese and onion crisps for lunch.
Let me guess. Cheese and onion?
Obviously! Top-tier crisp. But seriously, making life or death choices at that age? It's crazy. Though, looking at it now, the whole tragedy is just awful communication.
What do you mean?
If they had smartphones, the play lasts 5 minutes. Juliet texts, "Just sleeping, don't panic." Romeo replies, "On my way."
Well, that's the shortest Shakespeare remake in history.
I'm just being practical. But you're right. The lack of info is the real tragedy. That and the crazy hatred between the families. Which brings us to the genius himself, William Shakespeare.
The most famous British writer to ever walk the earth.
Definitely. He probably wrote this play around 1595. And did you know, this wasn't even entirely his original idea? He adapted it from an older Italian tale.
Yes, Shakespeare was amazing at taking old stories and making them magical. He actually invented hundreds of English words that we still use today. Plus, the funny thing is, nobody knows exactly what he looked like.
A true man of mystery. Speaking of facts, I think it's time for our new section. Fun Facts. Did you know there is actually a Juliet's house in Verona, Italy?
Oh yes! Thousands of tourists visit it every year. They even leave love letters on the wall. It is so romantic.
Love letters on a wall. Better than a text message, I suppose.
Now, before we get to our vocabulary, let's learn our idiom of the day.
Ah, a classic one for this story. Romeo fell head over heels in love.
Which simply means to fall deeply and completely in love. If you fall head over heels, you are crazy about that person.
Spot on. Right then, Let's get stuck into the vocabulary, shall we? I've got my notebook ready.
Let's do it. Word number 1 is feud, spelled F-E-U-D, feud. In the story, the two families had an old and angry feud.
First, a quick pronunciation tip for our listeners. It isn't pronounced feud. It's simply feud. Like few with a D at the end. Feud.
Perfect. A feud is a very long, very bitter argument. Have you ever had a feud with a neighbour, Harry?
Not a full feud, but my neighbour still hasn't forgiven me for parking in his space last year. He gives me a very angry look every morning.
Well, a real feud lasts for years and involves deep anger.
Okay, word number 2. This one is dramatic. Exiled. E-X-I-L-E-D. The prince exiled Romeo from the city.
To be exiled means you are forced to leave your home as a punishment, and you cannot come back.
It's very serious, usually done by kings. But we joke with it today. For example, if I forget my wedding anniversary, my wife might exile me to the sofa for the night.
Banished from the comfortable bed.
Exactly. Word number 3, please.
Word 3 is potion. P-O-T-I-O-N. Friar Lawrence gave Juliet a sleeping potion.
A liquid mixture. Usually magical. You don't walk into a pharmacy and say, "Hello, mate, 1 headache potion, please."
No, they'd think you were crazy. It belongs in fantasy like Harry Potter. But we do use it playfully.
Like my morning coffee. That is my magic potion. I need it to survive.
Same here. All right, final word. Bitterly. B-I-T-T-E-R-L-Y. At the end of the story, the families cried bitterly.
It means doing something with intense, painful emotion, not just a few tears.
Yes, it comes from the sharp taste of something bitter, like dark chocolate or a lemon. But here, it's a sharp feeling. If you lose a game, you might be bitterly disappointed.
We also use it for the British weather. Wrap up warm, Liv. It's bitterly cold outside. The wind actually hurts your face.
Exactly. Okay, listeners, before we go, it is time for a quick quiz. Let's see if you were listening.
I love a quiz. Question 1. Why was Romeo exiled?
Question 2. What was the sleeping potion for?
And question 3. What does the word feud mean?
How did you do? You can always rewind and listen again if you missed the answers.
Well, I'm bitterly disappointed that we have reached the end of the episode.
Me too. But you know, every great story teaches us something.
And perhaps Romeo and Juliet teaches us that hatred can destroy lives, but understanding can change history.
Beautifully said, Harry. We'll see you all next week with another classic story and more natural British English. Bye for now.
Cheers!